For this particular episode of Sean's Yearly Reviews, I was going to be watching and reviewing the Tom and Jerry movie from 2021, but given the fact that I was having a hard time finding that movie so I could rewatch it for a review, and I wanted to watch the movies by the order in which I organized them, especially considering the fact that I organized them in a funny place for a reason, given the name of the 9th film I'm going to be watching, I decided to swap movies instead, where the Tom and Jerry 2021 movie will be later in the binge list, while the 1992 movie will be here for right now. And this is quite an interesting episode, I might add. If you've been following my channel, aside from Drake and Josh, Tom and Jerry has been one of my most popular video subjects for quite some time. My review on Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka was the second most popular video on my channel until I released my second commentary on Mr. Enter and my Tom and Jerry comedy show review. By the way, just a heads up before getting into the review, Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is not part of Sean's Yearly Reviews, mainly because of the fact that I already did a rant on this movie years back, and I still stand by what I said in that particular review, and that it's a lazy cash grab that felt like it was thrown together haphazardly with Willy Wonka, with no changes to distinct itself from the original movie, and whatever changes that are made only ruin the character development of the characters from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But if I were to rank this movie alongside the other movies reviewed for Sean's Yearly Reviews, Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka would be in the bottom 3 for now, although there is some pretty stiff competition coming up, so that bottom 3 position will be in jeopardy pretty soon. But on to the main subject for this review, the 1992 movie. This movie is very infamous, as not only is it considered the worst Tom and Jerry movie of all time, but it's also considered as the worst thing to come out of Tom and Jerry. In fact, it's up there with the Gene Deitch shorts in terms of infamous Tom and Jerry products. And to that I say, guys, cool your jets. Yeah, this is an indicator for the rest of the review about what I'm going to say towards this movie. Similarly to the Gene Deitch Tom and Jerry shorts, I find this movie bad, most definitely, but people treat this movie as if it's the worst thing to come out of the franchise, while being dramatic and saying, "Oh my god, Tom and Jerry are dead." But considering the fact that I've seen quite a bit of bad stuff from the Tom and Jerry franchise, and heard about a few other Tom and Jerry products that have a bad reputation as well, the 1992 movie is not the worst thing that ever came out of the franchise. Far from it, in fact. Considering the existence of, like I said before, the Tom and Jerry comedy show, which as stated before, does miss the point of the entire franchise. And Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka, which is basically just Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but with Tom and Jerry thrown in at the last second. With the Tom and Jerry 1992 movie, this movie does have some understanding of the franchise, and this movie is at least about Tom and Jerry, even though this movie basically shoves them into a ripoff of The Rescuers. More on that in a bit. And also, some aspects of this movie were massively overblown due to people hyper-focusing on the big elephant in the room about this movie. But before we get into all of that, what is the Tom and Jerry movie about? Well, Tom's owners are about to move. Tom gets his stuff around and gets into the back of their owner's truck. Tom gets flung out of said truck due to Jerry, and while Tom is distracted trying to lock Jerry in the entrance of his mouse hole, Tom gets left behind. The very next morning, their house gets bulldozed, leaving them with no house or shelter, leaving them to have to look for a new home. They start talking, yes, that actually happens, and becomes allies. And the rest of the movie throws them into another story revolving around an orphan girl by the name of Robin, who is in the hands of a woman named Aunt Fig and a lawyer named Mr. Lickboot. Yes, those are the exact names of those two, I'm not even joking. They find out that Robin's father is still alive, and Tom, Jerry, and Robin needs to go on a journey to find them before Aunt Fig and many other people could get their hands on her. Now, to get the misconceptions of this movie out of the way, yes, Tom and Jerry speaking in this movie is incredibly jarring and off-putting, and that is something that I'll be getting to later. But one criticism that I've heard regarding this movie is that Tom and Jerry become friends, and these people pretend like they're friends throughout the movie after they sing the Friends Till the End song. Even though that's not actually the case, because there are still parts of the movie where Tom and Jerry are indifferent towards each other, including the scenes after this song, where Tom immediately traps Jerry in a flower pot and tries to grab some grub for himself while Jerry is livid. Now, from context clues, this means that Tom didn't mean any of what he sung about with Jerry, and he's doing it because Pugsy and Frankie made them do it. And something to note about Tom and Jerry as a franchise is that both of them have been allies before in some shorts. Many people only didn't notice this because they were rivals most of the time, and even then, when they were rivals from time to time, they weren't on good terms completely. If you guys remember, the short called The Truce Hurts was about Tom, Jerry, and Spike being on good terms with each other before getting a hold of a giant steak and going back to being enemies. And Tom and Jerry also worked together to keep a baby safe on 2 separate occasions before, because the babysitter was too busy talking on the phone to do anything about him. And that's kind of the same thing here. Tom and Jerry are allies in this movie, but that's only because of the fact that Tom and Jerry aren't able to survive without each other. And also, when they end up finding Robin, they put aside their differences and help her, similarly to the shorts where they try to catch a baby. And also, there are plenty of sequences in this movie where they are irritated with each other even while being allies, so the claim that people have been making about Tom and Jerry being friends in this movie isn't entirely true. If you want an example of Tom and Jerry being friends completely, well, the 1975 series is basically that. However, now let's get on to the problems with this movie. If there's one thing that I think almost everyone could agree on when it comes to this movie, that would definitely be the fact that Tom and Jerry are supposed to not talk and stay silent at all times. That's what the shorts established, and yeah, that criticism is totally valid. And while there are definitely much worse Tom and Jerry products than this, them talking is definitely one of the worst things that the franchise has ever done. Not even the Tom and Jerry comedy show or their crossover with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory had them talk. Not to mention, the voices that they gave Tom and Jerry themselves sound very off. Like, they don't really fit either Tom or Jerry. This feels kind of like a Scoob situation, where instead of hiring those who voiced the original characters as the main ones, they decided to hire celebrities or famous voice actors to give the movie an all-star cast. Tom is voiced by Richard Kind, whom you may know as Molt from A Bug's Life, as well as Bing Bong from Inside Out. Given the fact that this movie was released in 1992, William Hanna was still alive. I don't know if him not being able to voice act was because he just didn't have the energy anymore or something, or if it was because of an executive's decision. Either way, it does feel like a missed opportunity that they just didn't take, given the fact that they decided to have them talk to begin with. And Jerry was voiced by Dana Hill, who also voiced Max in Goof Troop before she sadly passed away in 1986. I understand that Jerry was very high-pitched in the original shorts, but Jerry was obviously an adult in the original shorts, and Dana Hill made him sound too much like he's way younger than he actually is. Another issue that I do have with this movie, and which not a lot of people seem to bring up, is that this movie feels less like it's trying to be like Tom and Jerry, and more like Disney. In fact, when first looking at it through that "we've got to have money" meme, I actually thought that this was a Disney movie at first, before finding out that it was from this movie. And we all know that Tom and Jerry is not owned by Disney. And it gave me that feeling because the designs, at least with the humans, do look like they came out of a Disney movie. Along with the fact that this movie is a musical, just like literally almost every other non-Disney animated movie that came out in the 90s. And also, the plot itself took a little inspiration from another animated movie that you might know. Tell me if this sounds familiar. 2 small animal characters that try to save a little girl from a crazy woman who is using her to make a profit. Yeah, this movie has the exact same story as The Rescuers, but with only a few bits changed here and there. But not enough to really say that it's a completely different movie. All they did was change the location from a swamp to a mansion, and the crazy woman just lied about the fact that Robin's father, Indiana Jones, was dead, instead of using her to gain a crystal. But that barely hides the fact that this movie is just a clone of The Rescuers. In fact, I'd even say that if Tom and Jerry weren't in this movie at all and were replaced with the original characters, you'd probably think that this movie is just a knockoff of The Rescuers, in a similar vein as the Dingo Pictures, Video Brinquedo, or Sparkplug Entertainment knockoffs of DreamWorks and Disney movies. And considering the fact that I already don't like The Rescuers, that doesn't really benefit this movie in the slightest. Honestly, my recommendation for this movie is to just not watch this one. as there are much better Tom and Jerry products out there, even in regards to their movies, such as The Magic Ring, which still keeps the Tom and Jerry formula while being a movie at the exact same time, as well as Blast Off to Mars and Fast and the Furry, which do put Tom and Jerry into an actual movie rather than into a completely different story. And there are also much better animated movies out there based on animated shows that you could check out more than this film, such as the Teacher's Pet movie or the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. While for the Tom and Jerry 1992 movie, some aspects have misinformation, but many other elements that have people reasonably saying that they don't like it. Also, Captain Kitty's puppet is Wade from Garfield and Friends.
Everything